In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a scatter plot in Google Sheets, how to plot the regression line, which Google Sheets calls the trend line, and its equation on your scatter plot, how to find the value of R, the correlation coefficient, and how to interpret what the slope and the value of R mean. So here we have some data. Each row in the spreadsheet represents a person, and in the first column we have the circumference of that person's thigh, and in the second column we have the circumference of that person's bicep. This is a bicep. I believe these measurements are in centimeters. They would have to be, otherwise we're talking about some very large people. And so we want to see a visual representation of the relationship between the size of a person's thighs and the size of a person's upper arms. And so to do that, we're going to plot a scatter plot. Let me get my picture of this lady out of here. In order to make a scatter plot, you want the data that you're going to be plotting to be in columns that are next to each other, and then you highlight all of your data, and there's a lot of data in here. I'm just going to take 100 or so of them. And a scatter plot is one of the many kinds of graphs that you can create in Google Sheets, and Google Sheets calls graphs charts. So we want to take this data and we want to insert a chart. Doesn't get much easier than that now, does it? So we have a scatter plot here. Google figured that the titles at the heads of each of the columns is what we wanted to title each of the axes. If we wanted to add to that, we could say the thigh girth. Let's see, how do I adjust that? Oh yeah, it's right here. Title text thigh girth. So we could do thigh girth in centimeters. And then if we wanted to similarly adjust the vertical axis title, we could do bicep girth in centimeters. The title seems okay, but if we wanted to change the chart title, we could do that here too. We can make the title a little bit bigger. Oops, I just made it smaller. We could make it bigger like that. We could change the color of it. This kind of stuff is fun, but certainly optional. Let's use a different color there, red. And so there's the scatter plot, and that's all there is to it. The next thing that we want to do is to include a regression line on here. And to do that, I believe we go into series, and Google calls a regression line a trend line. So we just want to click that box here, and boom, it puts the line of best fit on here. If we want to see its equation, we need to come in here, and the equation comes up as part of the label. So we just want to go here and say use the equation. And the last thing that we want to do is to show the value of the square of R. So if we click that, that will be included as well. So the last thing that we want to do here now is to interpret the slope and the value of R. So let's see. The slope is 0.529. This means that when the thigh girth increases by 1 centimeter, on average, the bicep girth increases by about 0.529 centimeters. Okay, so for a 1 unit increase in whatever is on the horizontal axis, the slope tells us by how much the variable on the vertical axis will increase. So a 1 centimeter increase in the thigh girth will, on average, result in about a 0.5 centimeter increase in the bicep girth. So that's the interpretation of the slope. The interpretation of the correlation coefficient, well, first we need to get it. So the correlation coefficient, Google gives us the value of the square of r, and here that's equal to 0.559. A little coffee there. So we want the square root of this. And so square root is SQRT in Google Sheets or in Excel, and we want the square root of that quantity. So the correlation coefficient is about 0.75. So the correlation coefficient and so here we can say that the correlation is positive and relatively strong, which makes sense because a person with larger arms will usually have larger thighs as well. And I believe we've done all that we set out to do: a scatter plot, the regression line, the interpretation of the slope, and the correlation coefficient.